I had a friend, this chick with me. She was like, hey, that guy over there, he's been talking about you. He won't shut up. Will you let him buy you a drink? So I walk over there, come to find out, she was sitting there with her mom, her brother, her cousin, and a few more people. And my plan was to walk up and be like, hey, you want a shot of Jack Daniels? And so she was like, yeah, but you got to buy it for my whole family. And here I am. I'm broke as hell. What have I got myself into?
We don't follow the map. We don't wait for permission. And we sure as hell don't slow down. This is Beach Weekend Unfiltered, the raw story behind building businesses, chasing opportunity, and taking risks most people won't touch. From the Gulf Coast, Key West, Bahamas, from marinas to million-dollar deals, this is entrepreneurship at full throttle. The wins, the failures, the chaos, the grind. No filter, no safety net. So buckle up. It's about to get wild.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We're here today with Corey Cooper at his place in Jack, Alabama. And Jamie, just kind of intro a little bit. Tell them about how we got started, how we got here with Corey, and a little bit of the backstory.
Well, first off, I want to thank you for inviting us to L.A.
Yeah, man. Welcome.
So you guys listen. That's Lower Alabama, not out in California.
That's right.
And I met Corey's wife, Magda, before I met Corey. And I know we had a lot of stories on Craigslist. This was not a Craigslist story, Corey, so not to worry there. But anyways, I met his wife. You guys were probably 4 or 5 years into the boat paddleboard creation and dynasty, and you guys were looking for a retail location down in Fort Walton, and worked with her, and you guys opened up, I think it was it was the first or second retail location?
Yeah, that was our second in Fort Walton. That was right after we were moving out of our Mary Esther location. I had a pretty big blow up with, everybody in Fort Walton, whether it was the fire chiefs or somebody else. And basically, I was like, you know what? This place, it's a steaming pile of shit. So y'all can take it and shove it. And they all thought I was nuts. Pete can attest to that at the same point because it was insane. So I was like, well, we got to have our retail store. We got to extend it because we had one in Mary Esther. And I think she called you 4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July, and we did make it a minute for the algorithm without a cuss word.
Yeah,
So,
look at that.
Hey, give a round of applause for Corey.
61 seconds on the mark.
That's exactly right. Okay, so you guys met, and you met Magna first. How did you and your wife met? When did you guys get married?
So I'll give you some backstory. We both went to Auburn University. She was a swimmer. She swam there at a very high level, won 3 national championships. I was going to school for engineering and didn't know her the entire time, which I'll be the first to tell you guys was a blessing. Because she knows me, and we probably would have hated. She would have hated my guts. I would have been just fine. But
So it was the right timing for maybe a good future.
Absolutely, absolutely. We met. I can tell you the moment. So, we're sitting in the giant auditorium going through graduation, and her name is Magdalena. And at the time, I was into a band called Perfect Circle. Maynard, James Keenan from Tool. They had just released maybe their second album. One of the songs was Magdalena. So I'm sitting there with a buddy of mine, and I'm like, damn, that's a cool name. It's just like the song. And so later that night, I was at a bar around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd already moved out of Auburn, right? I was staying with my roommate. We sold the house, and I had a hotel room with a friend of mine from Atlanta. And I was in a bar, 3 sheets to the wind at this point. And I look across the bar. It's probably 8 o'clock at night at this point. And I see this chick, right? And I'm like, you know what? It's my last night. I'm moving out. I'm not going to come back.
Yeah.
Let's just swing for the fences.
Sure.
So I went over. I had a friend, this chick with me. She went over. She was like, hey, that guy over there, he's been talking about you. He won't shut up. Will you let him buy you a drink? And she comes back. She was like, yeah, she said, okay. So I walk over there, come to find out she was sitting there with her mom, her brother, her cousin, and a few more people. And my plan was to walk up and be like, hey, you want a shot of Jack Daniels? And so she was like, yeah, but you got to buy it for my whole family. And here I am. I'm broke as hell. Like, oh man, this is bad.
This got expensive real
What have I got
fast.
myself into?
Yeah.
So I asked her name, and she says, that's Magdalena. I was like, holy shit. Did you just graduate today? I heard you go across the stage. And so I proceed to buy her and her mom. I think we each did, maybe 10 rounds of shots.
Whoa.
10 rounds of shots. And that was basically the first night I met her. And then the last night we've been apart.
That's amazing.
And it was, she actually had to call my friend from Atlanta to come get me because I didn't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
And we tried to find places, ended up staying at her apartment. And so the next day I leave and apparently we were in a state of mind that I never even gave her my phone number and vice versa. And so for a week, I didn't talk to her.
You didn't know how to find her.
Right. She thought I took her phone because I had to take her phone to call I didn't have a phone. This is back before, everybody had phones.
Yeah.
So I had to take her phone and call my friend to come pick me up. I had no idea where I was at. And so I ended up seeing her again the next week, and she thought I deleted my phone number out of her.
Oh, man.
And I never even gave it to her. But that was basically the last night minus that whole week there that we never saw each other.
So a great start, almost a little rocky start after that, but then you guys picked it up and here you are. How many years later is that now? 20 years later?
Yeah, it's been, what is it, 2025? So yeah, almost exactly 20 years.
Amazing.
Almost 20 years to the date.
Okay, so you were in Destin when you founded Boat Paddleboards.
Yep.
You're in St. Pete now. If you don't mind, take us back a little bit, though. When did you get into paddleboarding, and when did you decide that, like, hey, I want to do this thing and start this brand?
Right, so paddleboarding now seems kind of just ubiquitous. Everybody knows what it is. A friend of mine, we were on Crab Island, which now everybody is well aware of. But in 2008, it wasn't what it is now. You had to own a boat. Nobody was renting pontoon boats like they were doing now. And this guy rolls up on basically what was an oversized surfboard. The companies that were in the paddling space at that point, I guess I'd call it very niche, very, very market driven. Most of it was surf and or kind of racing. And this dude rolls up on a giant surfboard effectively. And I saw everybody wanted to try it. It had this aura about it to where people were coming up to the person on the board, but nobody could use it because it was too specialized. It was having a volume, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember looking at Magda and I was like, this place out here, like people would love a simple method to just enjoy the water.
Right.
And most of paddling was, West Coast based. It was California, Hawaii. And in my mind, I was like, dude, if we could just make this to where it was more of the Florida lifestyle and in a package that was easier to paddle. It was more for the enthusiast. Somebody to go to Crab Island and drink beer or go fishing or whatever. We could make something of it.
Yeah.
And
you saw an opportunity.
I saw an opportunity from both a product and, believe it or not, a brand platform.
Yeah.
And that's where the name BOTE came from. I was like, look, we can take a spin on, look at the amount of money people are spending, in boating.
Yeah. Right.
And if you could just, simplify this to where it doesn't need maintenance, it doesn't need gas, engines, all the crap that comes along with boat ownership. Yeah. I think we could have something there.
So you had that vision for that. When did you kind of like the light bulb go off to where you wanted to connect your engineering background for the build side of it? Was that something that it
comes natural? Yeah. I mean, like when I was a little kid, my parents, toys were a little different then, I was big into tractors, as what you can see now here, and my granddad had a Ford tractor, an old blue one, and it, old school one. It didn't have the cabs and everything, but all the tractors that I would get, they were metal. Yeah. They were all fancy and they all had cabs and stuff like that. And I remember I was probably 5. I wanted to make a tractor look like my granddad. So I took a hammer and just beat the cab off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, now it's like I want
granddaddy's. Yeah.
Just beating it with brute force. That's basically the exact same person I still am today. And so, when you talk about, did I leverage engineering? I don't know if it was so much engineering on the product. It was just more, I'm going to beat this with brute force until I get it, I shape it how I want it. And obviously some skills and stuff, come into play there, but that was basically it.
Where were you guys at business-wise and family? Were you already moved to Destin and settled in Destin?
Yeah, we moved to Destin 2006. We moved mainly because it's the old adage, I kind of had this. I was working when I graduated Auburn. I was working doing engineering for a company out of West Point, Georgia, that was making machinery.
Yep.
It was. I learned a lot. It was trial by fire. At that time in the manufacturing world, a lot of stuff was moving overseas already. It was pretty much gone. So a lot of that industry was very hard hit. And I just was like, look, we're going to get kind of fixed if we keep going too much longer in a location that long term, and this is not the right thing to say because in hindsight, I could have done different things, but personally I was like, let's move somewhere where we want to be before we start building kind of our future.
Right.
And I got a job down on Eglin basically working for the OEM contractor doing weapons testing, all the arenas down there doing different, the ICBMs, ammunition, stuff like that.
Yep.
And Magda, was nice enough to, she's like, yeah, I can do whatever. And she got a job working at first with A.G. Edwards, financial advisors, and they got recruited to Merrill Lynch, again, through an Auburn connection. And in 2008, she was pregnant with our oldest son, who's 16 now. Oh, sorry, in 2009, she was pregnant with him. And it was just kind of one of those moments that both her and I were like, look, this is a lot like kind of cliff jumping or parachuting. This is the time to jump.
Yeah.
It's going to get exponentially harder as you go down this line.
Yeah.
And
now or never.
Yeah. I remember sitting on the countertop in our townhouse. So if you don't do it now, what, dude, trust me, you're going to always want to do it. So that was kind of the 2 points, of confluence of where, timing and opportunity meet, to where fortunately we had the luxury of being young, dumb, and stupid and having zero money or zero risk to jump into it.
So did you keep your day job while you started BOTE simultaneously, or did you just literally go off the cliff? And
yeah,
just
man.
Go for it?
So I was actually working at the time. I was working for the same company that I worked in West Point, Georgia for. They started a satellite office in the Panhandle. And my job, and what I was doing, was running a satellite office for them, doing the same thing I was doing on base, but in the private sector, to be able to sell it back to, the same people that were using the stuff on base. And I did that for about, I'd say for almost 2 years, and realized this is development, incubacy time period. So the operations weren't intense.
Right.
It was more like, Magda, you run the business,
Yeah.
Type stuff. You help me on this side. I got a real job I got to go do during the daytime.
Yeah.
So that was about 2 years before I
was the vision there at the beginning in starting this that, hey, this is going to be a big brand? I mean, what was your thought in that incubacy period?
I don't do anything it's full stop.
Yep.
It was either going to be a home run or bust. And you got to have full faith and full belief in whatever you're going to do. You're going to run that shit till the wheels fall off. And so, in my mind, it's hard to describe to people. And, when you've got a vision of where you want to take something, you visualize a universe of where you want to move into. Right. And it's kind of all right here. I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. I mean, when you're young, you don't have a lot of time to sit here and roadmap things and plan them out and have all this unified structure to get you from point A to point B.
Right.
You just do this.
And you don't need it because it's just you.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
We can get into this later, but I see people that, start businesses later in life that can do really well developing a really thought out roadmap. But you find yourself a lot of times a slave to some of these things, to where you built this box that you got to work inside of.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that. Again, like I said, fortunately, what we didn't know is blissful ignorance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So backing up into where you are, you guys were shaping boards. I mean, the thought was, hey, we want to create this product. Like you said, you saw it at Crab Island. You kind of got a spark of a direction.
Yep.
And from there, you go, all right, let's start with similar to a surfboard. Let's get some foam cores and start shaping and just try to build a prototype so we can stand on it. And
did you build the first prototype?
Yeah, I built the first prototypes. I made the first roughly 200 myself. I'll just kind of walk you through the development side of things, both on the product and also on the business.
Right.
We had zero money. I mean, I'm talking nothing. I think I cashed in a 401k worth about $7,000. She might have had the same. And we had, fortunately, we didn't have any car payments. We had a townhouse payment, and we maxed out $15,000 worth of credit cards. So the model was, you make something, you sell it, and you take the money back in, and you turn $1 into $2.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most basic, simple shit.
Yeah.
You could basically do, and
which is something you can do when you're at the bottom.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things too. On the operation side, you're running everything from A to B.
Yeah.
So starting the product development, I used 3D modeling, which I had access to, and fortunately, engineering school gave me the background for
Right.
all the 3D modeling, and where you can test stuff out without having to
Actually
physically
build it.
go through it.
Yep.
But there was a lot of give and take. You would model something, make something, and most of this at the time was all hand done. And a lot of it was on the job learning, because a lot of the things we were doing weren't exactly done. The way I was making boards and how I wanted to do it wasn't your standard kind of model of making them. So again, I would buy foam blanks and shape them, and get them as close to the 3D model, and find people that would do anything you couldn't do, you would leverage, relationships or favors or whatever to get this.
And I'm
that
assuming
done.
you'd been on some boards that you tried, you didn't like,
Yep,
and you're thinking, how can I make these better? You probably broke into them and said,
Yep.
okay, this is the way they're doing
Destructive testing was a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, for what you could afford. I mean, for me to buy a board, that was 10% of my entire business development fund.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you didn't really have the chance to do that. It was more like, let's make one and see how bad it's fucked up, and then you can fix it out from there.
Yeah.
All right, so jumping on, we got a few boards out there. We're selling them, friends, family, internet sales. That wasn't even a thing, really.
It was actually.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a friend of mine that helped me. He was in the internet space and kind of a creative guy. Helped me stand up the first website, and we were still selling, I would say, 80% of our boards to just direct relationships. And funny part is, we got this old pontoon boat and decked it out with all of the branding, well, as best as we could, which looked like banners and flags, stuff like that, and parked it on Crab Island. And I'd have 5 boards out there that I made, and we would let people just come and try them. You know what I mean? Just try the boards.
Yep.
That's how we sold, most of our boards.
You went out on the weekend, you put boards in the water. Hey, try them, let people experience something new that maybe they've seen other people do, but it knows is accessible.
Yeah. And so you'd sell 5, then you buy the materials and make another 5.
Yeah.
Or you buy another 2 or 3. And that was brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, especially because there's a season for that too, right? I mean, you're going to the winter season, you're probably not going out to Crab Island and selling many boards, right?
well, at the volumes that we were making at the time, there was really no seasonality. Definitely, as the business matures and grows into it, becomes much larger thing. You're talking about loading your financial cannon for, annual forecasts and figuring out, hey man, I got a 1-year lead on this. I got to know how much to build and when and what the market looks like.
Right.
Early stages, it was just make one, you'll sell it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. As you're getting these products out there, paddleboarding's still not a recognizable name like it is today, right?
No.
So trying to create demand, trying to create the brand and the product was, I think at some point you guys started to build up, starting a racing community, right?
Well, I'll tell you
the
one of the-
exercise,
one-
or
one
where was the hype being built?
One of the most challenging things in the Panhandle, and we were selling everything locally, was that YOLO was starting. They had started a few years before us, and Jeff did a really good job of, like, for the people that knew what paddleboarding was, it was YOLOing, right? That's what they call it.
YOLOing?
YOLOing.
So you only live once-ing? Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, to think about it now, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
kind of crazy, but like for the people that knew paddling, that was what you were up against.
Yeah.
Right. And so our market, they had the 30A, they were out there on 30A. And so our market was, I'm going to say, markedly different into the way we were approaching it. We were mainly targeting recreational enthusiasts, people that just wanted to go hang out and go to the sandbar, Noriega Point, and drink and stuff like that. If you look at our product line now, it's 100% reflection of
Well, it's
that
a
identity.
lifestyle brand now,
Yeah.
but it probably didn't start out as that, right?
Well, it couldn't. You can't be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can't make everything for everyone unless you've developed it and kind of give yourself time to catch that wave. And it was minimally viable product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how can I package this in the most minimal form with the most minimal capital exposure possible
And people actually buy it.
to get this shit to where people will buy it and buy in to this concept and create this community of, I don't know, just like-minded users that are then going to help you sell the products. Because even, throughout the life cycle of the business, we were doing consumer surveys, up until when I sold the business, that would tell you exactly, you could know exactly how you're targeting customers, right? So 30% of people that were buying our stuff in the end were just buying it. It was word of mouth.
Right.
So people trying other people's stuff. It's free advertising.
That's right.
I mean, that's how we sold everything in the beginning. I didn't put $1 in advertising.
So how many years were you just hustling, just building a board, selling a board before you started realizing?
Well, I was hustling the entire time until I sold it.
I mean,
I didn't sleep until the check went through the bank.
let's rephrase the question differently. Until you started hiring people to help you alongside the
Dude,
business.
the first 5 hires that anybody makes in business, and I'm sure a lot of people will attest to this, you got to hire 5 people before the one person becomes effective.
Yeah, that's
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you're replacing elements of yourself, and the first 5 you hire, you just feel like you're wasting money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, shit.
Well, and there's the tension because it's like I'm not getting out what I'm paying, and it's just easier for me to do it myself. But you can never grow if that's the way you're always going to look at it. Because as we know, as entrepreneurs, like you have to be a jack of all trades to even start down that path, right? But then you have to really learn to delegate and learn to let other people slow you down a little bit for a season so that you can start to catch that wave. And that's different for every business. That's different for every personality. But what did that look like for you? I mean, you said 5 people. Was that a few year process until it started to, okay, I'm getting the return on this investment now?
Yeah. So the first few people we hired were very tactical hires. So we hired a bookkeeper, because Magda was doing it all. We hired 2 warehouse guys that were helping me pack boards. You know what I mean? I mean, imagine this, dude, packing 1 paddleboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Just packing it when you, after you're done was probably a 2-hour process.
Yeah.
And I was doing that shit.
And at this point, how many boards are you making right now? And all by hand, right?
So we were solo. So it was myself and my wife, Magda. We were both co-founders. We were solo until I started outsourcing manufacturing to China.
How many years from inception?
It was probably 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
2 years. I knew, I'm like, dude, there's no way you can do this in the United States. Just being in the manufacturing side of on the engineering, there's no way. I mean, the labor, the materials. I mean, even if you wanted to make it in the U.S., you couldn't get the materials. There was no suppliers. There was no vendors. And I ended up getting a connection over in China through a friend of mine that was doing just not completely non-similar things. And this factory that I found, they were making the surfboards for Corona, the display surfboards. Completely non-usable things. And I ended up talking to this guy who's now one of my best friends on the planet who lives in Asia. His name's Alex. He was a salesman for this factory. And he was like, dude, just come over here. So, I used all the money, basically I could to fly over to China. Met this dude, in an airport and went my first time being in China. This is, 2011. Eyes completely I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
And, go to the factory and I spend, a little less than a week in the factory teaching these guys how to make
your boards. Yeah.
Yeah. Hanging out, and long and the short, we start making boards in China, but I can't fill up full containers. I don't have the money to do it.
Right.
So I'm buying 20-foot containers to ship them, and 20-foot container costs exactly the same amount as a 40-foot container to ship. And I got a 20-foot container half full.
Yeah.
So I know, I'm like, man, I'm not making any money on this, but this is the only way.
This is where this is going to get you where you need to go. But it's like this first 5 hires.
You're
it's slow.
You're just
how many
spinning
boards?
your wheels.
How many boards were you selling as you were working your way into getting production in China?
We were probably selling, like I told you, I made the first 200. After that, they were gone. And the first 200 took me 2 years.
Okay. You
know what I mean? So I mean, it was that long of a process. And during that time period, when I started buying from China, simultaneously, we're like, we need an outlet to be able to move them quicker than just selling them customer to customer like we've been doing. And so we started doing wholesale trade shows. We started going to, we were the first really paddleboard company to go to Surf Expo. They thought we were crazy, going to Surf Expo, which makes total sense, in retrospect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we went to some of the shows and we started selling the boards wholesale. And now, a lot of the people that were going to the shows was weren't employees. I would get connections or friends. A friend of mine out of Destin, Jared Cramblett, worked for us for a little bit, and he would go to the trade shows and help us set up.
Yep.
A friend of mine owned a laser engraving business in Destin. A guy named Alan Helmuth would come with us to set it up. Nice. And they weren't actual hires. But when we started moving product like that, we're having kind of, I'm going to say normalized income and revenue. We hired the tactical people. And the first kind of major hire that I made from a business perspective was our creative director, a guy named Rob McAbee, who lived north of Jacksonville. And he owned a company called Bugslinger. It was a fly fishing lifestyle apparel brand. And he came to us at ICAST, another trade show. I was like, look, man, you've got a lot of stuff here I can see. Let me come and help you brand it. Let me come and help you really start an identity behind the products, how we're going to build everything and reach market and stuff like that.
And to that point, had you known that's something you needed to dive into?
Yeah, I absolutely knew he was the first. That was the first hire I needed.
Yeah.
100%. Because that's the most, out of everything that you do in a business, that's kind of the soul.
Yeah.
Right. And
it
also
shapes the story of what you're
selling. It also
selling.
maintains so much energy. Like when I was doing it by myself, I mean, you drop everything else because that's all you're focused on. And I remember calculating the amount of boards, physical units that I would need to sell in 1 year extra
just to pay for him.
to pay for that dude.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Again, like the 1
And the
plus 1
question
equals
is,
2.
can you help me sell this many more boards?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I went to him like that. I was like, look, dude, for me to afford you, I got to sell X amount more, right? Only because of you.
Yeah.
And I know.
And that's not even if we do anything on top of that. Like,
Exactly. So that was kind of, how we structured the business. I'd say the first 5 years, it was just like, what's bleeding the most? Where do I need injections the most? It was not a strategic org chart hire.
Yeah.
Like if I started a business right now, like from scratch, I would absolutely identify the executive team, the management level team, everybody else, have a revenue chart for 5 years.
Yeah.
It would suck all the fun out of it.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know though at the time.
It would take 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you would implement it, but it would also take a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of how we operated for roughly the first 5 years.
Okay. So when he came on, obviously that was a good decision because BOTE is what it is today, largely because of the branding side that helped you accelerate the growth of the business, right? So with that, looking back on it, that was the right decision, right?
Well, so I'll give you an example. I was a guest speaker, a guest lecturer at an MBA / engineering course at Auburn last fall. And one of the things the questions that he kept bringing me up was how much do you guys focus on patents? How much do you focus on IP? And my response was, all that stuff is one big firewall.
Yeah.
Right. You're just building a firewall to keep people out.
Right.
You're not really building anything external. You're focusing a lot on building this.
That stuff doesn't sell more.
It doesn't
boards.
sell shit.
Yeah.
But if you've got a good brand, you can sell popsicles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you don't need really technical stuff. It was kind of in my DNA to, understand that. It's like, look, dude, we can sell a cup or a cooler or a fucking water float if we build a good brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always had other brands that, I would see that, whether it's different spaces, motorcycle spaces, music.
Right.
Music was a big inspiration for me because I love the way that bands and everything would evolve over time, and you could grow into that, that energy and immersiveness.
And I saw the Marshall half stack back there.
Yeah,
Did
man.
you play?
I used to play all the time, and business sucked the joy out of that one.
I
so.
understand.
Hey, side note. If you want to be really good to yourself, never take a passion and turn it into a business because you'll never want to fucking do it again.
I understand.
One of the podcasts that we did, we talked a lot about category creation. And I think that really fits into paddleboarding because before you guys were in the market, paddleboarding wasn't a category. Like you said, it was surfing or some guys using it at maybe transportation between boats at a sandbar.
Yep.
And
at least not in the Florida lifestyle, maybe in the West Coast.
No.
Yeah.
We did a trade show in Germany, in Nuremberg, Germany in 2013. This was the first time it hit us. Every brand in Germany, they were all European brands for the most part, that was exhibiting paddleboards.
Right.
They had been in the water space for decades, right? Whether it was making windsurfers or kayaks or et cetera, boats.
Yeah.
Paddleboarding was a sub-product line for these brands. Nobody had created a brand off of paddleboarding.
Yeah.
And not to just beat a dead horse, but my concept was we're going to take the Florida lifestyle, specifically at the time, Destin, and package it up into a brand and then sell it to the rest of the United States.
So
that was it.
Quick question here. So you built the lifestyle brand, but talk to us about the name BOTE and where did that come from?
Yeah, I kind of touched on the beginning. It was pretty simple. It was a kind of an alternate slang word, and in Spanish for boat.
Yeah.
And again, I thought the brand itself was the vessel, for this lifestyle, the boating lifestyle, and I thought the name was very appropriate.
Well, see, there's a lot of people that spend a lot of money just to make sure they get that name right. You clearly didn't.
No, dude.
You just got it right.
Well, one of the things I did, if you look at the logo, there's a bar over the O. When I started, there was, my first kind of iteration on the design, the bar was over the E. And a friend of mine, Bob Brown, he goes, well, we knew people were going to pronounce it like that anyways. Right. And he goes, it's just too heavy. It's too heavy on one side. It looks like it's falling over. Move the bar. You know what I mean? So I'm that's simple. I just moved the bar.
And there you go.
And that was it. But
you raised the bar.
And you raised the bar. Is that the same? Is the logo we see today?
It's the same.
It's the exact same one.
Yeah.
Even after the sell,
I did it in Photoshop in 5 minutes.
Don't you love that?
Let's talk about this too, because when you guys started BOTE, YOLO was already there, right? They were there. I wouldn't say first, but they were early in that same vision that you had. What do you think that you guys did and were able to capitalize on that they didn't or they couldn't?
I don't know if it's that they couldn't or they didn't. I mean, we just had different strokes for different folks. I definitely think that I can tell you just from interactions with people that paddleboarding scared people. It was, I don't know why. what are you going to do? Fall in the water and get wet?
Yeah.
I think one of the fortunate things that
people are afraid of sharks. Let's be honest.
I mean, dude, we saw, and at least I saw the market for the recreational enthusiast. And so what I tried to do was really use references that people were familiar with. So fishing, yoga, simple crap that didn't require speed or, hard skills, to use, and use those markets. So the fishing market was a gazillion dollars the size of paddling market.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, well, if we just have people fish on these, now we're touching the boating market, the fishing market, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a much larger market.
Right.
It also opened us up to those retailers,
it's
the
an entry
dealers,
point.
Guys that were fishing shops selling stand-up paddleboards.
Yeah.
So our market, our addressable market was just much wider than
your vision was bigger.
Yeah. Than just, one of the guys in the West Coast brands or, even YOLO, not like they were doing a bad job. They just had a different approach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
and I think, like you said, the progression of paddleboarding, like you said, starting out as maybe a sandbar tool, merging into the fishing.
Yeah.
I think the timing obviously was great, as you know, from the exit and where you are now. The same thing was in kayaks.
Yep.
Kayaks were selling so many units as they started merging into a specialty, a bigger market. Like you said, more fishermen than kayakers, more fishermen than paddleboarding.
Oh, the fishing kayak market, and that's probably a good reference point at that time, was much larger, especially from a dollar value. You were able to capture a much higher dollar value per sale out of a fishing enthusiast than a recreational person. You know what I mean?
That goes back to the add-ons, like you guys with BOTE, taking a paddleboard that's, $500-600, turning it into a $1,500 ticket, a fishing holder, you got the coolers and what you were able to do and build off of that category and really get that top line sales number up.
Yeah, it was, that was enjoyable. It really was, because you're seeing everybody else struggle to, flip a paddleboard for $500 and you're, $1,600 all day long. And people are like, what are you doing?
But my guess is
you burying Coke inside those boards or something?
The brand side that you did when you made that hire to be able to now start accelerating and accentuating what the main product was and make that the perception to the buyers that now, hey, so many more people are able to access this in a way that fits the lifestyle.
Yep.
There's no question that brands move as far as hiring somebody to start thinking that way with you. I'm sure you were thinking it.
Well, when you get to when you also reach the customers where you want to take your brand, you're setting yourself up for future product expansion. You're opening tangential markets like the coolers, the chairs, all the other stuff that we did because we weren't perceived as a paddleboard company. As crazy as it sounds, you know what I mean? It was just like, hey man, you guys got this. It snowballs, and and I'm very, and when people come to me and they got a one product idea business, it's a gear on a bike. Yeah. I'm like, dude, you could absolutely make some money on that, but it sounds like hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where do you go from there?
Right.
And you just get so stuck and you can't, I get bored as shit, man. Yeah. Like if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, I just walk away from it.
So you started with one SKU, a paddleboard.
Yeah.
What did you end with?
It wasn't really that complex. Maybe 100, little over 100.
Yeah.
I took a lot of inspiration from Apple in the way they built what they call their garden. When you buy an Apple phone, you're in their universe. You got all their apps, you've got their AirPods. And so I wanted all, and you can see if you look at the whole product line, the boards with the coolers and the racks and the chairs.
It fits together.
You're in the garden. And so kind of our internal philosophy was what we want to do is just grow the garden, right? And then just kind of build your firewall up to keep people inside that garden.
Yeah.
And once the customer gives you permission, which is important, if you start, going just, I'm not gonna make light bulbs or I'm gonna make a broom, they're gonna be like, well, maybe Yeti, they can do that stuff now. Yeti can make a broom. You got to be careful, when you build it and not step too far out of what the customer's allowing you to do. So talking about the addressable market, that was important for me.
And you touched on it earlier too about, if you were starting a business now to when you started BOTE, did you as you started shaping boards, in the garage and as you grow into a warehouse, at what point did that, like you said, that garden concept start clicking with Apple? Like, all right, we're starting to get traction on these boards. How can we continue to open up that market with fishing? Now we got fishing. Now we can add on.
Our first product was fishing capable. Like you could buy accessories right off the bat. Like I think the thing that really identified is the boards. And I took this from the skiff market. So like the micro skiff market, when the market crashed in 2008, 2009, fishing, the minimalist perspective of fishing really, took off from fly fishing on small shallow water skiffs. And I'm like, dude, we can make this even more stealthy, easy to use.
Yeah.
And, we developed this thing called the tackle rack, which is a simple aluminum weldment that held rods, would hold your bag. I had cooler tie downs on it. The very first product. So right off the bat, we were selling a Yeti cooler, the tackle rack, a board, a paddle, the stuff that, started building out.
So that was essentially day one. Okay.
Day one.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Day one.
So let's talk about some of the challenges over this, decade or 12 years of owning and running BOTE. A little backstage, we were talking about people are challenges, right? But then there's financial challenges. There's challenges of keeping the energy going whenever it's like, oh man, the economy does something that is just now potential issues. So what were some of the things for you that were just difficult that you just hated about the business?
Hate's a strong word. I think there was just things that there was always things I wanted to do better.
Yeah.
In any arena. I mean, the financial arena, the product side, the branding side. I mean, all of it. You've just got these desires to just be better, do better. That really pissed me off. And maybe it's a personal problem, but it's just nothing was good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it still drives me crazy. My wife would be like, dude, you're ready to do something else.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective for me, like I was just never satisfied at accomplishing something. And maybe that's I don't know, maybe I've heard it from, stuff like Nick Saban, like he'd let the team celebrate 5 hours until they turn to the next year. And now you got to go win another championship.
And from our experience, I know like that just gets harder the bigger you get, because then it's trying to corral that energy of doing better. And now you got to implement that and translate that into every single soul that's part of your company, because you can't do better without them either.
That's I think one of the most important things that was kind of a byproduct of building the business. The people that we hired in the beginning, they were probably some of the longest standing employees that we had.
Yeah.
They get to come in and see the real grassroots, the foundation.
They
building.
were invested. Yeah.
They were invested. And you built this team of cultural policemen. You know what I mean? They would be like, this guy's not pulling his weight. This guy, and thankfully it was a blessing in disguise that we couldn't recruit nationally, and I couldn't recruit, people that came from these high level backgrounds, because those people, for lack of better words, most of the time sucked, because our business, they're used to very mature businesses or businesses that had a very well developed, strategic
and most
pipeline.
of them don't know how to operate as nimbly as you have to.
You got to be a jack of all trades. So, I mean, you guys know, a lot of the employees that we brought on, hey, you're a graphic designer tomorrow. I need you to go clean out these coolers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's right.
Just stuff like that. And so fortunately we had an awesome subset of people in the beginning that stuck with us a while and really helped us lay like I said, the cultural police network.
Yeah.
That made it easy, but it didn't, it made it easier, but it didn't solve any of the, most of the hardships of running business with employees.
Well, and something too, I think, this is an entrepreneurial podcast. Hopefully people listening are resonating some of this. But one of the things that I know, Jamie knows, you never really get to take a break from this thing, right? When you're growing it, when you're starting it, you're going on vacation, but there's still those things that only you can do, right? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget is, if you're at a 9 to 5, 8 to 5 job, you can check out. And the business still is going to go without you. But as the owner, you're responsible for so many things that only you can do. Now, you can delegate as many things as possible, but still, if you want to survive tomorrow, it really starts and ends with you. Talk a little bit about that and maybe some of the tension with that, with family, with continuing to lead employees, and just how you overcame the reality that you are who you are and you have to do what you have to do.
Our business was pretty unique. It's not unique from a product side of things, but when we grew it, like I told you, I started outsourcing all manufacturing to China, and China's 12 hours difference from where you're at in the United States.
Yeah.
And so in 2013, when we were at the trade show in Germany that I mentioned, my guy from China, I brought him over there to help me just field some of the Chinese inbound. And we kind of came to an agreement there. I said, hey, man, let's just form a trading company in China and let's build all the factories. Like, we're going to start doing this. And so when you talk about the time bandwidth and only stuff that, I can do, I'm running BOTE in the United States during the day, BOTE in China
at night.
in the night.
Literally
until 3 or 4 a.m. every night.
Yeah.
And this was almost the entirety, you know what I mean, of owning the business. And so there was no off.
Yeah. And you can't just, and as the owner, you're not going to just, okay, well, you know what? It's 7:00, Central Time. I'm just not going to answer that email because they're sleeping, right?
Well, then nothing gets done.
Then nothing gets done, and you're moving at half speed, which is quarter speed because you're also running the business.
Right, and
daytime
the employees, the people that you put in a position to do other things. If
They're relying
XYZ
on
doesn't
that.
get done, then they're screwed.
Yeah.
And so you've got to pull the weight, for everybody to be
Keep
able to
everybody moving.
Yeah, to be able to operate.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, I don't think I slept. I still have PTSD from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 3 years, man. I'll wake up, oh shit, where am I? I gotta answer an email. Fuck, I mean,
Yeah.
it's brutal.
Well, I think a testament to some of the staff that you built is half of them are sitting over here today.
Hey guys.
I'm just glad they're still alive, to be honest with you.
And I got to ask, I think are we up to 5 or 6 ex-BOTE employees
Hire
now
them
at the
all,
beach
man.
weekend? And I think the biggest thing today was
Timing
to
couldn't be
get
more perfect.
Corey on the show is to welcome him in to his next journey with us.
Yeah, well, how much money you got?
Like any entrepreneur, you know the answer. Not enough.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, how many more bags of coffee do we need to sell to hire him?
Yeah.
Or how about this? Or to pay for the gas to get here.
That's true.
Shit, yeah. I need some more gas in my skid steer. You guys would load that thing up.
Does
awesome.
it take
Gas.
coffee beans?
My wife sent me this meme the other day. It was this picture of the dude cutting grass. It said, there's 3 levels of rich. First level, you cut your own grass. Second level, you pay somebody to cut your grass. Third level, you cut your own grass.
It never ends.
That's me.
Hey, let's talk about this because this is something that a lot of I know business owners, friends of mine, that did really well after that initial 3-month scare of COVID, and then invested so heavily in businesses. We did the same thing, and then the reality is it leveled off.
The COVID bump.
The COVID
That's what
bump,
the private
right?
equity guys call it. COVID
And then now you've got to we're at the place now where we're tariffs one day, we're not the next day. There's
uncertainty. It's
uncertainty,
crazy.
right? And that affects business. So how did you guys rebound after the COVID bump to get back in the saddle of doing the things that you knew to do to continue the growth?
I'll give you the 50,000 foot level because it was kind of built fortunately before COVID. We, as every business, you struggle for capital. You know what I mean? And in 2016, my wife and I were kind of like, man, there's a lot of risk on the table. So we went out and recruited some private equity money in 16. And I can go, that process in itself is a whole podcast because it was really fun, and some of the strategies we deployed to do that. But anyways, we brought on a private equity partner who ended up being a great partner, a group out of Chicago named Prairie Capital. And one of the challenges that we had right off the bat when they came on board was this concept of selling boards to wholesale, right? And then selling retail. And at the time we were like 90% wholesale, 10% retail. And it was only through our few stores in the Panhandle. And the thing that irritated me the most about wholesale was that as soon as you sold your product to that party, you lose all brand control.
Yeah.
All brand control. They service it, they sell it, they give the story. It wasn't about the revenue or the margin. I'm a control freak and I did not like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to touch consumers because they'd walk into a store and there's 4 different brands. And inevitably they're going to default to selling the cheapest product most times. So we kind of built this strategy to shift our product line or our sales channels to be more weighted on the direct consumer side. And my goal was I want to be 60-40, right? Direct consumer, wholesale, strategic wholesale. We pick the right partners. We sell the rest to the retail customers via retail store expansion and online e-commerce and third-party platforms, Amazon, everything else out there. So having said all that, flash forward, it took a 3-year, really rough patch of deconstructing sales channels, offlining dealers, and behind the scenes building a direct consumer model to where you had to, it's a complete just destruction of everything. You had to have, teams of graphic designers, e-commerce managers, et cetera,
Yeah.
to be able to sell to them.
And as a control freak, now you're really taking your hands off, right?
Yeah, well, no, you're more hands-on. That's why, because now we can strategically target people. We can run strategic brand ads. We can control brand messaging. We can absolutely amplify our marketing because we're able to directly convert on it.
And were you still deeply involved in that?
Oh, dude. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
All the way down to building the Power BI systems that sourced all the data, that integrated into a dashboard so we could see how all the ads were working.
Cool.
Dude, I'd go on everything. But so we fortunately, we had that pretty well in place prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, believe it or not, almost a hard launch of really pressing that engine in 2020.
So perfect timing for the private equity to get those systems built in place.
Perfect timing. We had it all to where we could sell direct consumer, whereas a lot of our competition couldn't. They
Yeah.
were selling to dealers who shut their doors.
Yeah.
Right. We opened the floodgates. Our sales overnight 3x direct consumer.
Did you have any issues getting product from China during that time that made
There was a challenge on the containers, like getting containers. But the way we ran our international logistics is I had a guy on the ground in China that was negotiating directly with cargo ships and booking directly with us. We weren't using like a third party big freight forwarder. We were doing direct buy.
So those
we're buying
years of already being in China, having that established,
for sure.
propelled you to the
and we
growth
were
that you
doing
saw.
all sorts of guerrilla. Dude, I never stopped using guerrilla warfare shit. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, just bribe somebody, put it on a boat, send it fast. Who gives a shit? Well, my competitors having to worry about margin profiles and, all these other things that they look at during their board meetings. Like, nah, I don't care. Just run it. And so we just poured gasoline on both the manufacturing side, sales side, and we're able to sell direct consumer, and we didn't lock down. Dude, I remember I had a competitor of mine out of Maine, because he goes, what are you guys going to do? I said, I'm going to sell the shit out of boards. What are you going to do? He goes, we're publicly traded. I got to close down. I said, man, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You know
Or
what I mean?
thank you.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah.
So, okay, after the COVID bump, then when things settled back down, did that change any of those things?
We were able to keep growing post-COVID. Now, when I took the private equity investment in 2016, we were the first fund that this group had invested in out of their new. It was first business they'd invested in out of their new fund, and we knew we had anywhere from a 5 to 10 year runway, right, for their exit before we sell out, sell them out of the business. And coming out of COVID, we're probably beginning of 2021. I look at my partner Darren and I go, now.
Yeah.
Now. You know what I mean? Now's the time. If you guys want your 3x return on investment, the time is now.
This is it.
And, fortunately and unfortunately, the business size had grown to where the value had grown so much to where it was one of those things like, I don't have money to buy you guys out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In my mind, I'm like, dude, I could buy you guys out. It was too valuable.
Right.
And so I had a few options. Either I go raise a shitload more debt off of a business that I thought was already extremely high valued and keep running it and take a massive risk, or I exit.
Yeah.
And it's some of these things that, you don't know when you start getting into, you don't really see that future because nobody's ever like, what if it's too good? You know what I mean?
This is something we could probably learn from him if he knew how to get out.
What we needed you is when we rode the crypto bubble high.
Yeah.
Because we looked at each other and goes, it's already up 100x. There's no way it's not going to go up another 100x, right? So we rode it up. And then, of course,
you and Magda would fit together well. I call that gambling. I'm a terrible gambler. I hate gambling.
Well, look at us.
We're
We're
terrible.
at the
We
bottom.
just
We're
like it.
terrible.
I hate gambling.
But I tell you what, going up feels good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Talk about timing on the exit. When you build a great brand and you build the sales platform, business is good, survive COVID, take the COVID bump, and now you're looking at, like you said, you got these opportunities like, oh shit, we're in really good shape. Yeah. Do I exit? Do I buy out the capital guys, or do we sit back and say, hey, timing is good, let's take it and let's move on?
Timing is everything in business, and you got to know when to go. And believe it or not, I actually told my private equity partner they wanted to go one more year, and I said, nope. Now you want to do it right now. Yeah. Made them hire investment bankers, went through the whole process. When you're inside of it versus being existential, like they are, they always see, another 1x multiple.
Another bump, yeah.
Yeah, like you were talking about. And, I told Darren, I said, we go now and I'm going to press this. I'm going to ride this some bitch full throttle and I'm going to get you guys out because that's how I got you in, and that was part of, for me, you're not only in business for yourself a lot of times. You got other people's expectations.
That's right.
And the last thing I wanted to do, man, was have them what they were in for and talk them out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wasn't going to be that guy.
And some business owners and friends that I know that have built brands, one of the things that I've seen where they've had maybe a good exit opportunity but failed to take it was because their identity's wrapped up in the business and they don't see themselves doing anything else but that. You seem to be able to have even though you're so heavily invested in it as your baby, talk a little bit about how you were able to distance yourself enough to make a good decision.
Yeah, I think timing a lot is timing, much like raising a kid. You get a kid to a certain age, they're on their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way I kind of felt. I was like, this is pretty mature. I like where it's at. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it. I don't think I've done any injustice to getting it to this point. And, a lot of times, me personally, like I said earlier, I get burned out on stuff. Yeah. And so sometimes it's, you live in a house too long and you're like, let me sell it to somebody else. And analogy I use is one thing you can do, you sell a house to somebody, you can't get pissed off if they go in there and paint the walls different colors.
Right. It's theirs.
It's theirs.
Yeah.
And if they want to redneck it up and put deer chandeliers in it, it's all you, baby.
So BOTE may look different today, but at the end of the day, you're out. Yeah. You were happy with where you left it and move forward to the future.
I'll give you a transaction story. All right. Yep. And in any transaction, in any business, you've got to have, whether it's an auction or selling it to somebody else, you've got to create a multiple buyer universe to where you have multiple buyers. It's the old adage, all you need in an auction is one sucker. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I knew the timing for the sucker were extreme all-time highs, like you said, everybody buying in. And so we had a pretty sizable buyer universe for the business. And
how was that created? Give us, I know that could probably be a podcast full.
Yeah, so in basics, you hire an investment banker, a group. We hired a group called Houlihan Lukey. I think they're out of New York. And so they come in and they'll help you. And again, I'd had multiple experiences at this point from the prior fundraise with private equity. So I knew the deal. We bring in a guy, you're basically on a 9 to 12 month cycle of the exit from when you hire your investment banker. You put together the business, the whole book, of the brand and you go out and pitch it. In my case, again, being a control freak, we internalized all that. Me and Rob McAbee, our creative director, built our book because I wanted it to look like a catalog. Yeah. Not some stupid Excel sheet and all this crap. I mean, we printed it. It was high end.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. And so we took that out. We had sometimes what you call fireside chats where the banker will bring in interested buyers before you cast a wide net. Yep. And in our case, again, we had a lot of well-qualified people that we didn't have to kind of go large. Once we got closer to the point of picking the buyers from an LOI, so they issued their letter of intent of, hey, here's what I'm willing to pay, we knew we could drive it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so we went out to a few strategic other people in the universe to get other buys, which they did that. They drove the price up. Yep. Once it comes to that point, it was more in my partner's hands because what they wanted was certainty of close, meaning like once we hit this point, there's no going back. We want to close because it's a failed process. Yeah. It's like an albatross. You know what I mean? Yep. Like you got so much stink on you, nobody wants to touch you. So for lack of better words, we picked the person that had the highest, almost 100% certainty of closure, regardless of post after that. Right. You know what I mean? Like
was that necessarily the highest bidder or just the highest qualified or the most confidence in the process?
It was 100% certain.
Certain. Okay.
Okay. I had another, like if it had been like, you go back to wanting to keep running the business, I had an option to pull what I would call the nuclear card, meaning like, hey man, I'm operating this. We're going to do this. I want these guys. However, the risk that I would have had to eaten to pick these guys with probably a 50%, 60% certainty of closure, it just
wasn't worth it for you.
No, man. I mean, the juice was not worth the squeeze. Yeah. And I knew, again, like I said, my runway on the inertia to keep running, it was pretty low anyways. Yeah. So, I mean,
no regrets looking back.
No, I mean, there's a few things I would have done differently. There always is. I mean, you always have things you would change, but
What was your relationship to even start looking that way? Did you have some, I'm guessing that it was relationship based. You knew somebody to start calling and asking that then opened up that world to you that helped you back in 2016.
So fortunately, we had a direct relationship. We had a line of credit that we used when we were growing the business from the local Bank of America branch in the Panhandle. And they were really jazzed about our business. They saw how well we were growing, and they were willing to lend us lines of credit at the time that, kind of blew my mind. And one day their regional manager came in and he was like, have you guys ever thought about bringing on, some private equity partners? And he introduced us to the concept of, hey, why don't you guys interview some investment bankers, bring them in, and then once you kind of settle on who you want to go out and sell your business or to bring in your investment, in this case, they'll do it for you. So I told Magda, I said, look, I want you to interview the bankers, okay? First, I think you're going to have a little more clarity in making sure that these people, are more aligned with kind of the vision of how we're going to sell it, because you got a different personality than me. I think you're better at that. And so she did, and we settled on a guy out of Houston, Texas, who just really saw the brand for how we saw it.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to make for a better partner to go out and bring on our private equity people.
Because he was already bought into the vision.
He was bought in.
Yeah.
And so what we did the first time is you run a process, and we brought in three partners, and we do management meetings. And you teach them the business, you show it to them. And what we did at night is, after a complete shock to them, we would go to dinner, then I'd take them out to the bars and just get them hammered until like 2 a.m. And we did this 3 nights in a row with my investment banker. And the great part about that was they undressed themselves. So these private equity guys would get smashed, and then they just talk, And
you learn a lot.
The funny part about private equity people is they always try to bring entourage with them.
Yeah.
And it was always the entourage that spilled the beans.
Mm-hmm.
They'd get hammered and be like, don't do deals with these guys, man. These guys are snakes or whatever. And so the guys I ended up doing business with, they got hammered, and we kind of related in things. And that was...
The intel was gold.
Yeah, it was, I thought it was going to be a good partnership. And it turns out we were right.
Well, before we end, let's talk a little bit about timing. Where the business is now, where it was when you closed it, and some of the things that you can't control, and how timing is so important in the exit.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for in the exit. The first, like I said, we did 2 deals. The first deal I knew I was going to be on, for 7 years. So I'm looking for somebody I can work with.
Yeah.
Right. The next deal, I know my one job is to bring those guys to return, and I knew I wasn't going to hang on. So it's a completely different. You're looking for a different buyer universe. And you talk about COVID. A lot of people got a lot of free money during COVID. So there was a lot of upstart private equity firms and a lot of people that had this awesome idea of what they were going to do. And I think one of the biggest faults of a lot of, I'm going to say it, fly-by-night private equity groups is they fancy themselves as operators. They don't put enough. I mean, the amount of diligence these guys do in some cases is insane. And in other cases, you're just like, dude, you couldn't operate a popsicle stand. Yeah. And you want to come in and you think you're going to have this model for this.
Yeah.
And you kind of know that, you know what I mean, going into it. And so you've got to align with what you're looking for more so than what they're looking for. And you've got to know how you're going to treat that. So
let's talk about, I think obviously when you guys are in the inception of category creation, of creating a brand and a market around essentially a paddleboard, right? And where paddleboards were hard to get, there wasn't a lot of companies building them. Now you can go to every Walmart, every West Marine, look at the price point. I don't know how many factories in China are making them. That brand has now generalized to the mass market, and it has shifted, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's one of the hardest things when you build brand is you build competition. I mean, if you look at paddleboard brands, water brands, they're just mirrors of what we built with BOTE in a dumbed down, simplified way.
Yeah.
They're able to piggyback off of all your SEO keywords, all of your AdWords, all your social media stuff, strategically target the exact people that are interested in it. And for lack of better words, short circuit all of the developmental side of things and brand build and just jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, in China, you've got, so I spent an immense amount of time building the supply chain, building it. I mean, everything. And you'll walk into a factory, and if somebody wants to replicate something, they'll just steal the product manager. They'll go build a factory. So if you're, some other Chinese guy that wants to build a factory, they'll just take the factory manager that runs this factory, go knock all your crap off and miss 90% of the key elements that actually make it function well.
Yeah.
Bring it to market dirt cheap and destroy market. It's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
So you'll see stuff that, I'll give you a great example. You guys know the big floating docks that's got the big pad on it.
Yep.
Well, the first few prototypes that we made, those pads would bubble up and they would come off the board because you're getting micro bubbles in it when you roll it under a roller to put the pad on the board. And in 5 seconds, we looked at it and we go, all right, well, let's run it through a needle press first to put a million different pinholes in it, so that when you can't get all those air bubbles out, they come out. I saw all the competition. They didn't know that. You know what I mean? And so they make it and all the product's destroyed. You know what I mean? You're just watching it happen. And so those kind of things happen all the time that destroy spaces.
But the buyers that are just looking, hey, this is cheaper, I'm gonna get that product. Then it's doing them a disadvantage because they're probably assuming, well, all paddle boards are like this, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, dude, it's the biggest issue with the consumer market, which is why I'm not in a rush to get back into anything, man. Yeah. I mean, it's a shit show.
All right. Well, Corey, man, thank you so much for just all this intel and insight into what you've been doing for the past 12, 13, 15 years now.
Well, I hope I didn't scare anybody away from it. I've been giving a bunch of horror stories.
No, I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, business is not easy. Entrepreneurship, there's a lot of risk. But man, we're so glad it's worked out well for you. And I think just the insight you've given us is helpful for the stuff that we're running now. And then for those that are listening, hopefully you can take some of this and make sure that you go back and listen. We've got, I think this is episode 14 now that we're on. Just a lot of great information that's just built around the branding and the entrepreneurial space. But we're so glad that you joined with us today. Again, we're here in Jack, Alabama with Corey Cooper, and look forward to seeing you guys next week. So make sure that you subscribe, watch us on YouTube, or if you've got this coming every single week on your phone, again, make sure the notifications are on, whether you're on Spotify or Apple. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
And one question before we go, and keep it to one word.
One word.
Entrepreneurship, and you guys heard the horror stories. Would you do it again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. That's what we need here.